Welcome back. Former FBI Director James Comey expected to surrender today to authorities after being indicted on 2 charges yesterday. Those charges include false statements within jurisdiction of the legislative branch and obstruction of a congressional proceeding. Both alleged crimes relate to Comey's testimony during a Senate Judiciary Committee hearing back in 2020, which was on the investigation into ties between President Trump and Russia in the 2016 campaign. Comey responded to the indictment in an Instagram video last night. Watch.
My family and I have known for years that there are costs to standing up to Donald Trump, but we couldn't imagine ourselves living any other way. We will not live on our knees, and you shouldn't either. My heart is broken for the Department of Justice, but I have great confidence in the federal judicial system, and I'm innocent. So let's have a trial and keep the faith.
Yes, and now it is up to the judicial system. President Trump responded to the indictment on Truth Social this morning. He writes this: James Dirty Cop Comey was a destroyer of lives. He knew exactly what he was saying, and that it was a very serious and far-reaching lie for which a very big price must be paid. Joining me now is Georgia Congressman Richard McCormick. Congressman, good to see you. Thank you so much for being here. And Jim Comey is set to be arraigned on October 9th in Alexandria, Virginia. He's expected to turn himself in today. Your reaction to the indictment?
Well, I thought it was kind of interesting that he was playing the victim now when he kind of started this whole misinformation. This is what happens when you play politics with one of the most powerful agencies in government. He's been messing with the truth for a whole long time, and now I think he's going to suffer the consequences.
Well, I mean, part of the messing with the truth was pushing this idea that President Trump, or then candidate Trump, was colluding with Russia. And as the director of the FBI, he should have known better, right? I mean, he would have known if he actually had evidence of that or if he was just pushing a made-up story.
I'm looking forward to exposing all the truth, not just partial truths. This is what he's been really guilty of, in my opinion. And I know this is not a court of law, but really if somebody who's picked and choose what information to release and when and who's actually legitimate and who's not, now he gets to be judged in front of all of us for what the real truth will be.
So I wonder if you read into anything about the judge being chosen here, because I know that, you know, now it's up to the grand jury, but we should also point out that the James Comey case just got assigned to a Biden-appointed judge, according to Politico. Judge Michael Nachmanoff has the case now. So what does that tell you, that it's a Biden-appointed judge?
That worries me a little bit because we've seen how jaded the administration, the Biden administration was when they chose their lawyers. They weren't constitutionalists, but at least this will be played out in front of the public. So we all get to judge for what information is presented. And a lot of times people don't get punished, but at least will be exposed. And that's what I want to see, is the truth come out.
Congressman, let me switch gears, ask you about the business at hand on the budget and funding. There's just one legislative day to go to avoid a government shutdown. And your colleagues on the left in Congress are downplaying the warnings from the White House that a shutdown of government will cause large-scale layoffs. They're now using the shutdown as political leverage. They launched a wave of ads targeting GOP incumbents over government funding and tariffs. House Speaker Johnson wrote this on X: Democrats are holding the American government hostage in an attempt to give free health care to non-citizens, which was just outlawed by Congress. This is not governing. It's putting illegal aliens first and Americans last. The government, of course, is set to run out of money on Tuesday and could shut down Tuesday night, September 30th. What are you expecting?
If it shuts down, this is Schumer's shutdown. Let's be clear. We passed in the House. They should have passed this in the Senate. It's so ironic when the Freedom Caucus is actually asking for a continued resolution for basically a Democrat bill, a bill that, by the way, I would like to mention in December got universal support from Democrats. I voted against it. I don't like CRs. And in December, I said, no, we're spending too much money. But what I realized was this is the best deal we're going to get. It is a built-in compromise. It is from the Democrats originally. For them to say we're going to shut down the government because we're not getting any compromise is not an honest argument. And I think that people are going to see right through it. Even when I was previewing CNN, MSNBC, and they all agree that this is a bad move by the Democrats. I think it's going to backfire drastically.
Well, I mean, look, what do they want here? I mean, Andrew Clyde, your colleague, in Congress talk to us about the subsidies that were given out during COVID. Is that the crux of it? Is that what the Democrats want now in order to agree not to shut down government?
Yeah, it looks like about $1 trillion worth of subsidies in healthcare that's going to go basically straight to profit for insurance companies. We're looking at about a 9% increase in premiums next year because they are so fat, dumb, and happy in the insurance agencies, which are, by the way, about 4 of the top 10 Fortune 500 companies in America, making immense profit off of still denying about 1/3 of all claims for healthcare. I mean, this is an industry that's been behaving. I know President Trump's been addressing pharmaceuticals, PBMs, insurance companies. Watch out, you're next. Don't do it. This is bad business, and I think the president is paying close attention.
Well, you recently introduced the Incentivized Savings Act to address the fiscal trajectory. Tell us about that.
I'm super excited about this. I think your listeners are going to love this because how many times have we talked about over the decades? And when I was in the military, I talked about all the time, we get to the end of the fiscal year, and if we don't spend everything in our budget, I lose it and somebody else spends it, and I get a smaller budget the next year. So I have 2 sticks to do the wrong thing. It's an absurd way to approach any kind of spending, yet we've been doing it since the beginning of the government. My bill is simple. You get to the end of the year, if you don't spend it and you're managing your budget appropriately, 49% of that leftover actually goes towards next year's budget. You actually get a bigger budget, rewarded first, and then you can buy maybe a computer or an upgrade or some other thing that you need that you can afford this year. Another 49% of that leftover goes back towards debt and deficit, not to the president, not to the speaker, not anywhere else, but back towards something we need to pay down because we're so far over in our spending. And then the remaining 2% goes to bonuses for everybody in that department, up to 10% of your salary is retention bonus. So I'm going to give you 3 carrots to do the right thing instead of 2 sticks to do the wrong thing. I think it's brilliant. The speaker loves it. Looking forward to pressing and getting it passed.
All right, we'll be watching that. What about the global affairs agenda? President Trump met with Turkish President Erdogan in the Oval Office yesterday. First time he's done that since 2019. The president urged Turkey to stop buying Russian oil. Watch this.
I'd like to have him stop buying any oil from Russia while Russia continues this rampage against Ukraine. And they've been fighting. They've lost millions of lives already. And for what? You know, for what? It's disgraceful. And I said yesterday, let it keep going because their economy is absolutely terrible right now.
Congressman, your reaction, I mean, it's incredible to me that even Europeans are complaining about Russia and its attack on Ukraine, and yet they're funding it by buying the oil.
Since the beginning of this war. And I remember when, as a NATO parliamentarian, we actually passed legislation saying, look, we can seize Russian assets and use it against them. We had 8, last time I counted, 8 countries in Europe funding this war by buying LNG, oil, precious metals, all kinds of commodities from Russia. Russia shouldn't have any business with the good guys. We are literally funding the war against ourselves. Shame on us. We need to do better. I think this is a great way to call leaders out, and not just Turkey, by the way. Several countries in the European Union have been doing the same thing. It needs to stop now. We need to end this war, put the thumb screws down on Russia, and make it stop.
Yeah, by the way, this week at the UN, we just spoke with Hillel Neuer, UN Watch Executive Director. What did you make of all that sabotage? The president goes on the escalator, it stops. He's reading from the teleprompter, it stops. Then we're told that some of the audio of the president's speech wasn't heard from a big group of people. Was someone at the UN trying to sabotage President Trump this week?
Well, it's really hard to say, but I will say this. I'm not a big fan of the UN. Since I was in the military in '94, they left Rwanda. We came in, we watched 1 million people die. 1 million people die because the UN didn't do their job. They've been corrupt. They've shown all kinds of bias against the United States, against Israel. They're not on our side. And that's why they're really in jeopardy of losing funding. And they already have lost some funding. They're not a straight up organization. We have to keep a close eye on them. They have some utility, but don't trust them, that's for sure. Well,
probably not a good idea to play games with President Trump while he was riding the elevator and reading his script at the UN if, in fact, the funding is already in jeopardy because of an ineffective agency. And then you've got these political tricks. Congressman, thanks very much. Good to see you. We'll be watching all of that. Richard McCormick joining
Always
us
a
this
pleasure.
morning.
Semper
And to
Fi.
you. Quick